Welcome in, you guys. The wave of the pirate era has finally arrived, and with it comes the end of Vegapunk's message, the reveal of potentially Shanks' brother, which we'll talk about more here in a little bit, and the fall of Saint Saturn of the Gorosei. We got a lot to talk about here, and while this chapter could be summed up as a reaction piece chapter, I actually think it is much more than that, because Oda in this chapter actually groups up certain characters, and that is what we're here to talk about. We'll kind of just tackle all of the big parts of the chapter, just work our way down, and the first thing we start off with is Bonnie and Luffy sending Saint Saturn into the sea. I don't know if it was really intentional. Luffy looks at Bonnie, says, "Hey, Bonnie, you need to beat this guy." Luffy's over here blocking Saturn's attacks, dodging them. Saturn's essentially getting no diffed by Luffy, right? Luffy's just kind of having a conversation while Saturn's trying to punch him from behind. But Luffy doesn't want to land the final blow without Bonnie. Luffy knows how important it is for Bonnie to just be the one to put Saturn in the grave. Well, figuratively, right? Because I don't think Saturn's actually dead. But yes, Luffy's like, "Hey, Bonnie, you can do it. Hop back up here. We gotta land one more attack." Bonnie goes into Gear 5th mode again, and together they blast him into oblivion. Saturn starts falling to the sea, and that is the last we see of him. And now comes the big question, the question we've all been waiting for. Will Saturn be able to swim? Right? Because up until this point, we have no idea. The fan base is split. Every time I hold the poll, it's like 40-60, 60-40 on whether or not people believe that these guys have actual devil fruits or if they are just actually devils, right? And I feel like this right here will clear up a lot of that conversation. A couple chapters ago, we almost got the confirmation because Warkity ran off the damn island, but the giant robot Emeth actually stopped him. So now that Saturn has hit the ocean, Oda is finally going to have to tackle this topic and give us a straightforward answer. And I'm super excited, man. I am super excited. As far as Saturn goes, though, this pretty much ended up how everybody expected, right? The minute Saturn landed on the Elbaf ship, dude, not a single person was sweating, right? Not the Giants, not Luffy, not the fan base. Like, nobody's like, "Oh no, Saturn's here, guys. We gotta run," It was like, "Oh, Saturn's here. He's just gonna get bodied by Luffy." Right? I mean, Luffy was still in Gear 5th. He's still in Gear 5th in this chapter. Yeah, Saturn didn't stand a chance. Hate to see it. So Vegapunk in his message talks about the ancient weapons. And that is when we see Vivi, Shirahoshi, and Konis. In the brief spoilers, they put Judge here, but we see Judge at a later date. So right here, Vivi, Shirahoshi, Konis. Vivi is tied to Pluton because Alabasta had a poneglyph that led them to Pluton and Wano. Kind of crazy how that all connects, right? But, Vivi with Pluton, sure. Shirahoshi with Poseidon, perfect because she is Poseidon. And now Konis and Isa up in Skypiea. So we don't see the Skypians listening to Vegapunk's message because they don't have Den Mushis. So they are oblivious to everything that is happening right now. So why did Oda decide to show us these guys? Well, it's because I believe that Enel and what he had back in the past with the Arc Maxim is a mirror of what Uranus actually is. I mean, hell, when Enel used the Arc Maxim to destroy Upper Yard, the attack looked very similar to what happened to Leloucia. So I do think Oda is trying to draw in the parallel here. Hopefully Enel comes back with the Arc Maxim. Hopefully, he has a standoff with Uranus. I don't know. But of course, Uranus being tied to the clouds, being something that lives in the sky, it makes sense as to why he would show the Skypians here. The next grouping we get are the Lost Heirs, or I think there's a better way to put them, but we get Vegapunk talking about the heirs of races that were once thought to be lost. That's where we see Kuma, the last Buccaneer, we see King, the last Lunarian, and we see Pudding, a member of the Three-Eyed Tribe. Another great grouping, but one thing that really stood out to me is that in the full spoilers, they say that King is actually bandaged up and is in a dark room. Notice how they don't say that he's in Impel Down. I mean, he might be, and that could just be a dark room in Impel Down, but I'm like, yo, does Impel Down actually bandage their prisoners? I don't feel like they do. Impel Down is one of those places where if you're injured, they're just gonna laugh at you, right? The guards aren't gonna help you. Magellan's gonna poison you. I don't know where King's at. So last we saw in Wano, Aramaki, Green Bull, captured him and Queen and a lot of the Beast Pirate fodder members like Babanuki. He packed up, he got a marine ship, and he left. Next, he went to go fight Weevil over at Sphinx Island. After that, I'm assuming he went to Impel Down, but is that where King's at? Is King still being transported? We quite honestly have no idea, right? Like, maybe somebody rescued King. I think that'd be pretty hard. I don't know who would outside of Kaido, right? Like, Kaido's the only person who really knows anything about King. He's the only person who would actually go out of his way to rescue him. So, hey, there is like a 0.001% chance that Kaido came back and saved him. Or we could just go to the most obvious and logical answer and say that King was patched up by the Marines and is still being transported to Impel Down. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this one. What do you think about King? Because that to me really stood out as a little bit odd, right? So the next character we get an update on is Kizaru. He's kind of just chilling on the side with Sentomaru, and that's pretty much it. Nothing noteworthy about Kizaru in this chapter. He's still hitting us with a ... But I do think that is noteworthy because a lot of people, myself included, were wondering where he's at, what he's doing. So even just seeing him chilling on the side, it clears all of that up. And when you really think about it, there's not much that Kizaru could actually do. Yes, he could join the battlefield and, you know, help the Straw Hats escape or help the Gorosei. But at this point in time, like, he's too mentally beaten up. He's already proved himself to the Gorosei, right? You know, if Kizaru were to leave this island right now, he'd probably get a Medal of Honor. You know, why tarnish that? Why throw it away? He already killed his good friends because of that. He already fought his friends. At this point, you got to just, you know, sleep in the bed that you've made. So the next grouping that Oda gives us is the science grouping. We get Iceberg, Judge, Caesar, and Harudis. You know, odd enough, you know, we get Harudis from Witheria here. So I really love this one because when you think about it, Vegapunk says, hey, I believe in humanity, I believe in science. In a way, this is like their version of Goldie Rogers saying to find the One Piece, right? You know, Vegapunk's over here putting these guys on a pedestal, essentially, and I am curious to see how they're going to perform. Iceberg, we know where he's going. He wants to make an island float. He can probably do that. Like, I don't really see any opposition when it comes to Iceberg's plans. He's really just working under a time crunch. That's pretty much it. As far as Judge and Caesar go, these guys, yes, they advance their science. You know, they want to create clones, devil fruits, all that good stuff, but they don't have a final goal in mind. So now that Vegapunk's message has released, I do feel like they will find some sort of ultimate goal, whether that's the acquisition of the ancient weapons or to simply surpass Vegapunk and uncover the Void Century. I feel like Judge and Caesar will have, not their comeuppance, but I feel like they will have a glow up in this final saga. As far as Hardest goes, I'm not too sure how to feel about this guy. Technically, he could just go down island to island and save people because he has one of the few devices out there that can easily go from a sky island all the way down to the lower ground and bring people up and down with him. So I think Hardest will be pretty important, but not as grand as Judge or Caesar. All right, so now on to the final portion of Vegapunk's message and my favorite part of reaction piece. But Vegapunk says, I'm just going to read it verbatim, right? He has a little flashback of Rogers, you know, if you want my treasure, it's all in that place. And then Vegapunk continues it, and he says, but it's not certain that the person Joy Boy hoped for will be the one who will get his hands on that. And let me scroll down a little bit. Where is it? Whether it'll be the one Joy Boy wished for or not, the fate of the world will be decided by the one who claims it. By the one who claims the One Piece. And that is the end of Vegapunk's message. You know, no more stalling, no more reaction piece. This is it right here. And then in the final double page spread of the chapter, we see everyone who I would assume is in the race to find the One Piece, whatever it is, you know, whether it's a device that can save the world, whether it's a giant drain plug that can, you know, stop the rising waters, whether it's a joke or just, you know, something that's akin to an ancient weapon. These are the people who are after it. We see Luffy, Teach, Shanks, Buggy, Akainu, Dragon, Emu, Kobe, Kuzan, Garling, Sabo, and one guy who kind of looks like Shanks, you know? Okay, so a couple of things first. You know, the most notable thing, the most development we get out of this is from the Marines. So while Vegapunk's closing out this whole speech, we get random Marines talking about how they need to find the One Piece before anybody else. And yo, that is massive, because up until this point, the Marines have been kind of like gatekeepers of the One Piece. They weren't trying to be, but simply by existing and fighting pirates, they were like gatekeepers. They never pursued the poneglyphs. But now things are probably gonna change, right? I mean, Akainu was shown in that final panel. You know, he was shown there. And now it's like, damn, these guys are going to have to go after the poneglyphs. You know, at first I was like, okay, you know, some random pirates are gonna show up on, you know, Fishman Island, Whole Cake Island, Wano, Zoe. But now we also have to worry about the Marines. You know, the Marines could show up now. And that's absolutely insane to me. You know, like, it is a twist I didn't exactly see coming. So yeah, you know, we might have the admirals, you know, going to all these islands and trying to get rubbings of the poneglyph. How will they read it? I have no idea. To my knowledge, I don't think there's any character within the Marines that can actually read poneglyphs, but hey, anything's possible. And since they are still connected to the world government, maybe they could just pass it off to them and they could read it and then gatekeep the One Piece. But yeah, I love that the Marines are joining in on the battle. And I want to see Akainu's reaction, because the Marines who are talking about going after the One Piece are just random Marines. According to the full spoilers, they don't have any names. They're just Marines. So it's not exactly official until Akainu says it, right? The minute Akainu says, let's find the One Piece, then things change. You know, then we can full send this whole idea. But yeah, absolutely insane that Oda even brings that up. And now, as far as the other characters, you know, the characters leading the charge in the final wave of piracy, Luffy, Teach, Shanks, and Buggy. God dang, the Emperors, man. These guys. I want to see some progress, man. You know, Shanks has 3 road poneglyphs. So beforehand, people were wondering if Kid had 2 or 3 poneglyphs. But if you watch the latest anime episode, Kid kind of mentions that they only need 1 more poneglyph. So this pretty much confirms that Law gave them the Zoe road poneglyph and the Wano road poneglyph, which makes a lot of sense, right? I don't know why the notion of only 2 poneglyphs came up in the first place. I feel like it was always pretty obvious that Kid had 3. So right now, Shanks 3, Teach has 3, and Luffy has 3. The only person that needs to catch up is Buggy. But Buggy, I think, is going to have a very easy time getting these poneglyphs. He knows the residents of Zoe, Buggy knows the people of Wano, and Buggy can go to Whole Cake Island with Mihawk and then clear the field, right? I mean, Big Mom's not home. Their only resistance is going to be Katakuri and Oven, and I'm going to say it right here, brother. You put Katakuri, Crocodile, and Mihawk in a ring, I think Crosskull is going to win. Flat out, I don't think Whole Cake Island actually stands a chance, so I think Buggy can easily get these poneglyphs if he wanted to. As far as Akainu, Dragon, and Emu goes, you know, that's their own faction right there, and these guys, they got no road poneglyphs. You know, I don't know how they're going to go about this. I think what would be interesting is if Shiryu's idea actually comes back into play. So Shiryu, back when we got the Hachinotsu flashback with Garp and Kuzan and all them, Shiryu talked about how there's a potential that the man marked by flames does have the road poneglyph, and that guy is working for the world government. He says that would be the smartest thing for the world government to do, to gatekeep that final poneglyph. So if that is the case, then this could be what sends a lot of these characters up to the Holy Land. But another way to look at this too is that since everybody is now after the One Piece, this does make every character eventually coincide, which I love. Because at first, you know, outside of the Marie's Raw idea, I was always wondering how Luffy was going to take down the world government. That has never been in the forefront of Luffy's mind. He's never said, oh, you know, let's take down the Gorosei, let's beat Emu and, you know, take down the system. Luffy's never thought of it like that. You know, he's just after the poneglyphs, he's after the One Piece. I don't even know if Luffy will care about the message. So I was always wondering how he would run up against the Holy Knights or against Emu. But now that they are, you know, quote, joining this race for the One Piece, we could simply meet them at the next island. You know, we could find the road poneglyph on Lodestar, for example, and the Holy Knights and Emu could just pull up, right? So I do love that this opens the door for Oda to play around with these characters. They're not stuck in one location anymore. Akainu isn't stuck at Marine HQ. No, he's gonna be looking for the One Piece most likely. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. You know, we see Garling, Sabo, Kobe, Kuzan, 2 in this final page, and I don't know, man. I love that Oda put all of the big players right here. You know, this is a great way to end off the 27th anniversary chapter. I know there are some people saying that it's just a reaction piece, it's not that grand, but here's the thing. I see this chapter as the start of the finale. You know, we've been in the final saga ever since we left Wano, but right here feels like the start of the final race. This actually feels like Oda has brought all these characters together, and now we're gonna have, you know, One Piece Stampede, where everybody's just competing for one single treasure now. You know, everybody's kind of unified in their goal. Vegapunk lit the fire underneath them. Vegapunk is now up there with the greats. So, now, final thing to talk about, we got Shanks 2.0. So, we don't have the panel in front of us, but we do get a better description as to what the leakers are seeing. So, I'm gonna read it right here. It says, in the final collage of panels, there's one more mysterious character in the shadows. A man with a cape that holds a sword similar to Shanks' sword. And that's all we get. We don't get the hair. We don't get, you know, facial hair even. We just got a cape and a sword. And with that alone, people are already thinking it's a Shanks brother, Shanks twin, or, you know, brother-in-law even. I don't know. So, at first, I thought it was a little bit silly to jump the gun and say it's a Garland, just based off of this descriptor. But I do think it's a Garland. I mean, when you really think about it, Oda has done this thing with kids, their parents, and then their adoptive parents. That right there is like one of the main running themes of One Piece. We had a great example in this very arc with Kuma, Bonnie, and Ginny. You know, like, Kuma's not the real dad, but he's here, man. He's the dad. And it's the same thing with Shanks, right? Shanks, he has a dad, and that's most likely Garling, but he spent most of the time with Roger. That's like his real dad. So yeah, it's always really fun seeing these family dynamics because they always carry one similarity across the board. And for Shanks, it is his damn sword. His sword is one of the only swords in the series, you know, outside of like fodder people for no reason. But he has one of the few swords in the series that actually has a guard. So Roger has that exact same thing, and Garling also has it. And those are the most prominent blades that have the guard. So adding in another character with the exact same sword style, that alone does make me believe that this character could be a Garland. I know it sounds silly. I know some people might disagree with that, but I'm starting to believe it. And then plus we have the Oda interview where he literally is like, hey, you know, Shanks brother, and then he cuts himself off, right? So yeah, I do think Oda's cooking here with the introduction of this new character. And one thing I think this does solve as well is the lack of Shanks and even Mihawk victims. You know, Shanks, obviously, he beat Kid. It looks great on paper, but it wasn't exactly a fight to the death, right? You know, Shanks wasn't giving 1000%. He wasn't going plus ultra here. And eventually, I feel like we do need to see fights where certain characters go all out, whether that's Shanks or Mihawk, because they're kind of like at the same level, right? So introducing a character who looks like Shanks, has the same sword as Shanks, and is potentially the same strength level as Shanks, I think is great. Because then you can give Shanks a victim, or Mihawk a victim, and it won't exactly affect Luffy or Blackbeard or these other characters. I think this is a great revelation here, and it makes me even more excited to see the Holy Knights. Somebody put it best when they said it, but they said, hey, Dragon wasn't worried about the Gorosei. He was worried about the damn Holy Knights. So I do have high hopes for these guys. You know, I'm excited for them. I hope we get to see some of their designs pretty soon. And it's pretty crazy that we have not seen any of them yet, outside of Garling, right? Like, I mean, dude, we met the Gorosei, saw their freaking transformations, and we only know about one Holy Knight. Like, how is that even possible? You know, the fact that Oda is hiding these guys above the Gorosei, insane. You know, the hype I have for them is insurmountable. And that's just because I love villains. I love villain groups, and I want Oda to cook one last time before the story ends. But hey, with that being said, though, these were some great full spoilers. Let me know what you thought about them down below. I would love to hear any and all opinions, and I will catch you guys on the next chapter of One Piece. There is a break next week, so we will be coming back for the week of the 29th. Yes, the week of the 29th. So I'll catch you guys later. Signing out.